Welcome back to another edition of Inside BBI with John and Eric. I'm John McDevitt, and with me, as always, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. Eric, it's a Saturday morning, so just a water, no
Yeah,
beer, no beer.
same with me.
We don't need it flying around. Somebody's an alcoholic. It's water. We wanted to keep this video. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to stick to just a very specific topic.
Right.
And that topic being all the rumors going flying about the possibility of Matthew Stafford coming to the Giants. So I want to back up slightly to midseason. You and I were talking. I had made a little bit of a list of some possible guys the Giants could go for. And then you kind of let me know at that time that you had heard some rumors, but we couldn't talk about it. We couldn't say specifically what they were, but the rumors were about the Giants' possible interest in Stafford. So let's go back to that time and start from there.
Yeah, so the Rams were 2-4 before they played the Minnesota Vikings and in week 7. So the expectation, I think, was that the Rams would have a hard time winning that game. That was a week before the trade deadline, and I had been told that the Giants were in discussions about Matthew Stafford at that time. The Rams upset the Vikings, and that seemed to change things at that time. So the first inkling that I had that they were even flirting with the possibility of Stafford was mid-season last year in 2024. So what's interesting about that is at that time, Daniel Jones was still very much the starting quarterback of the New York Giants, and the Giants were not making any noise that they were going to bench him, which they eventually did at the bye week. So with that, if those rumors were true, now I should preface all of this with this. I run a Giants website. I have people contact me all the time about things they've heard. I have no way to verify the authenticity of the information that I receive other than the fact that I pay attention to if the person has a track record or not. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, and these people aren't people that are living in John Mara's house or working in their front office and have direct access. These are people that know people who know people that may have contacts inside the organization or may have contacts outside of the organization not directly related to the Giants. And you may ask, well, what does that mean? There are agents out there are
Right.
family members out there are players out there are all kinds of people out there. So I want to set that up. So I'm the messenger. I cannot vouch for the authenticity. We heard last year that the Giants were interested in trading up for May in the draft. I had people telling me that it was practically a done deal. Obviously, it wasn't a done deal. So again, take all of this with a grain of salt. Some people get really, really mad when people gossip like this, or whatever you want to call it, dealing in rumors, whatever you want to call it, and it doesn't turn out to be true, and then they get mad at the people relaying the information. That's why we've had on the website over the years, we've had a number of people who have reported these types of things and stopped reporting like these types of things because they got tired of the blowback when these things did not end up. So things are completely fluid in the NFL all the time. Deals fall through. As we saw with the May thing, the talks were happening, but it didn't happen. So again, I just want to throw that out there. So whatever we're hearing does not mean
It's 100% fact.
100%. So
Yeah.
so if you don't like this stuff, turn this off right now, go do something else, and don't listen to John and I. So I wanted to just get that
Yeah,
out.
which coined the phrase ass hat. That's where the ass hat piece came from. And it's hard too because a lot of things change. And I can say a number of years ago when we were first doing this, when I brought a couple of players on, I actually had a connection with an agency. So they didn't represent some of the players that we brought on, but they were connected to the person who did, and that's kind of how I got an in there. But I also got stuff that they fed me about other players within the league. And then I had a former player, and I'll never say who it is, who would tell me a few things about stuff going on inside the building every now and then, in the intermediate time between when we last did the show till now. I haven't been able to get anything from that person in the last year or so, but it used to give me information all the time about things that were going on. So you never know who knows what. Like I've seen before, there was a real estate agent that somebody knew who knew that a certain coach was putting their house up for sale in that area, saying that they knew that coach was leaving and was going somewhere else. It's interesting how these things come about. So
Yeah, I had the brother of a very, very famous Giants defensive lineman who everybody would know tell me he would sell me information. I was at a bar and I'm like, what is this, The Sopranos? I mean, I don't know what the, I didn't take him up on that offer. But again, so there's all kinds of, again, so the thing about the Stafford stuff that John and I are going to talk about, why this is getting interesting, is I've had 4 sources now tell me in the last week that it's not that it's going to happen, but there are very serious talks that are going on, and it's heading in that direction. The only thing I will say is, well, not the only thing, that one of the sources did tell me there are other teams involved now, and so I would not be surprised if the Giants get outbid here either. Not that's me speculating. That's not them telling. But there are other teams involved. We also have one report out there from Adam Schefter that he said the Rams are very much interested in keeping Stafford. So as an outsider looking in, somebody might say, well, why the heck would Stafford want to leave the Rams to go to the Giants? Why would the Rams want to do? Why would the Rams? Because they don't have any obvious answer at quarterback. Why would the Rams? There are reports out there, whether you believe them or not, that the Rams and Stafford are not completely happy with each other. So some of this gets into the fact that Matthew's wife Kelly has a podcast, and she has said negative things about the Rams. There's the whole Cup situation at wide receiver. So there are other things out there that could be influencing this as well. The Rams may decide that they want to move on because of his age. So I don't know. There are people on the website in BBI who seem to know the Rams more, and they say that there is some merit in that there's not that everything's not great between these two parties. So that would lend to the speculation again that the Rams may be looking to deal him to get draft capital to get younger at the position.
yeah, and I think there's a couple things. One, there was a very obvious push from last year. The Rams wanted Matthew to tell them he was coming back sooner than he did. He dragged it out a little while before he told them he was definitely coming back. And I think that's there was probably some contract stuff or whatever else maybe was kind of at play there. That's why when this season ended, one of the things that they wanted to know right away was what was Stafford's plan for this coming year. And they
Right.
wanted to know it much sooner. That's coming from the Rams. They wanted to know it much sooner. You can also look at the fact that the Rams are going to get younger in a number of areas. They Cup is on his way out. That's pretty obvious. They've made that very clear. They've got Nakua, who's young, but the rest of the receiving core is a mixed bag. So if Stafford's thinking, hey, get me better players and stuff, they're thinking we might want to build more long term. You could see there might be some friction there. They survived the year when Stafford was injured, and they kind of rotated quarters. Remember, that's how Baker Mayfield got his contract ultimately with Tampa Bay. He got brought in out of nowhere. I believe he was brought in on a Monday night or Tuesday morning after injury. And because they were so shorthanded, he started a game on a Thursday night, does a comeback, or came into the game on Thursday. He didn't start it. He came into the game in like the second quarter. He leads a comeback win. That ultimately is what gets Mayfield his contract. So I think there's some legitimate pieces. One thing that Schefter said, he said two very specific things. The first one was the Rams aren't just going to trade him. They're hoping to keep him. I don't buy that. I actually think that's what you say if you're telling other teams we want, X
They're negotiating.
Yeah, if we
Yeah.
want X, I can't tell you I want all this if you know I have no interest in bringing the guy back.
Right.
So there's that. The other thing that he said is there is no way, and he said it multiple times, there is no way the Giants are going to trade the third pick for Matthew Stafford. And that I 100% agree. The Colin Cowherd story about that sounded so ridiculous when the way he said it. I think a lot of the stuff he said was pretty much what other people are hearing, that Stafford is available and the Giants are interested, and we'll get to the Giants part in a second. But the fact that he said then the Rams' idea was they want to get the third pick, so then they could trade down and get picks for 26. That makes no sense. One, you don't tell people that, because then who the hell's going to give you the kind of picks that you want, knowing you're trying to do that?
Right.
Two, why would you trade up to 3 in this draft to get picks in next draft? Why wouldn't you just ask for picks from the
Yeah, I
Giants
don't
next
know.
year?
I don't know what the Rams thinking and I know this. I I heard the only pick that I heard being discussed from the Giants' perspective was our third round pick, which is at the top of the third round, which is it's not practically a second round
Yeah,
pick.
number 65.
It's not an insignificant pick. People say, well, it's a third round pick, big deal. It's at the very top of the third round, so it is not a throwaway pick. So could that go higher because there are other teams involved, or the Rams have convinced the Giants that other teams are involved, and to get the Giants to negotiate against themselves, what the Giants are infamous for doing. The Giants have a horrible history of negotiating against themselves, and you're like, why are we giving this guy this much money when nobody else was interested? You know, some people have speculated that's what they did with Daniel Jones. You know, why did we give him $160 million? Who were we competing against?
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley. Same. We can go on and
No,
on.
no, I mean that's who they were competing
Oh
against.
yeah, but
They
we
had
could
to keep Barkley. We had to keep Barkley, and that's why Jones got the contract that he did.
right. But again, so I don't know. Anyways, that's a whole
Yep,
other.
yep.
So I do think there was somebody else on the website that mentioned a third too. I will try to go back and find that. There are so many comments on Matthew Stafford right now. I can't even find some of the commentary that's on there. But the only thing I heard was the third round pick. That could change, obviously. That's not an insignificant pick, but that's the only thing I heard. But there would also obviously have to be money. And I heard from one guy that said they're looking 2 years, a 2 year deal with Stafford at 55 million per year guaranteed. 55 million per year, the 55 million being guaranteed. So I don't know if, again, I don't know if any of this is
Well,
accurate. I don't know if this is just,
Well,
but
it's that's an interesting. That's for a second. Let's stay there for 1 second.
yeah,
That's an interesting piece because right now Stafford's under contract for 2 more years with the Rams. He's on the
yeah.
contract for 25 and 26. In 26, I believe he has no more guaranteed money per
Hmm.
and bonus money. This year he has a roster bonus and then an option bonus that's coming. So a roster bonus coming due. So if they're going to make a move, they would want to do so before that roster bonus comes into play. If I'm Stafford, it makes sense. I want a deal done before I agree to a trade. I did read somewhere that there are some reports, and I think Pat Leonard's the one to put it out there, that league sources say that Stafford is okay with it being the Giants, that he's fine. And it sounds like he's interested because of the fact that they have Neighbors. Makes sense. Neighbors would be an attractor. If you're going to go somewhere, I got to have a number one wide receiver. There was some other talk too about the fact that maybe it's a package deal, that if where Stafford goes, Kupp would go. The Rams might be trying to do that because they free up a lot of money. If they can trade both of these guys before the deadline, they'll have dead money, but they will save roughly 25. I think it's like about 25 million on the cap this year if they can trade both of them before June 1st, which in reality means before the draft. Nobody's trading for a quarterback after the draft like this because now you have no capital to use for this year. It's all next year. So it's an interesting piece. If they do a contract for the Giants, if you were to do this, let's say you're interested, so we'll leave the compensation out for a second. If you're to do this, you got to get a new deal. You don't want him just for this year with that other deal next year, because that's a lot of money that when you bring it in, it's really going to, the bulk of it's going to count for you this year, which means we eat up the bulk of the money that we get. So you've got to do a deal that can spread out so you can do the signing bonus.
Well, again, this is don't take this as gospel. This is something I heard from one source. This doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it's true.
Right. But his
So,
contract, what I'm saying, his
yeah.
contract, if you acquire that contract, the bulk of
No,
the
I get it.
money is
I
all
get
this
it.
year. So you,
Right.
as the Giants, have to do something so you can spread it out so you don't take the hit all in this year.
You would think so, but again, if it doesn't happen, again, don't shoot the messenger. This is
Sure.
what I started, and I'm going to put on my cynical hat here for a minute here and say, I think you and I can come into agreement that this is probably the last serious money Stafford will get in his career if he gets if this
Yes.
happens, right?
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
he's looking to get paid. He's also, and I'm gonna this is gonna probably ruffle some feathers. He's probably also looking out for his wife here, who
Sure.
has a podcast, and you can do a podcast from anywhere in the 50 states. But if you're in the New York market and you have a podcast, your audience is going to go way up, I would think, in terms of regional appeal. So
And sponsorships and
he
sponsorships.
may he may be also looking out for his wife here. I also will throw this out here again. This is more speculation, but because there is a relationship between Brian Daboll and Chad Hall, our new assistant quarterbacks coach. They were both coached together on the same staff in Buffalo. But Chad Hall is also the brother-in-law of Matthew Stafford, and that raises spidey senses tingling here. There's connect the dots a little bit here as well too. So I just think there's a lot of signs. I started a thread this week that got a lot of views, and I've heard all these rumors. I've been hearing that for a while now. I didn't want to start that thread, but there were too many people coming out to me that saying, "Hey, this is real." And I thought, all right, I've got 3 people here telling me it's real. Then John C said in the post, yep, I've heard the same thing. That makes 4. And then I had another guy tell me, who posts on the site, who hasn't not posted this on the site, that he's heard the same thing. So that's 5. So we've got 5 people. So everyone's either trying to piggyback on everybody else. The Giants are doing a great job of throwing out smoke for whatever reason, or this is real. So the only thing is, again, does another team come in here and jump in and do it, or do the Rams have second thoughts and decide to re-sign him after all? I don't know any of that. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing is Matthew Stafford. Now we can talk about the pros and cons whether we think this should happen, but there seems to be enough smoke here to think that there's a fire.
Well, and so I'm going to go back to where we started.
Yeah.
There was that Thursday night game. You and I had been talking about it beforehand. You gave that piece. We brought it up that we
Oh,
couldn't.
can I interrupt you because this will affect what you're going to say?
Yeah.
One guy reached out to me yesterday, one of the same guys, and said those talks were in before Halloween were very, very real. So again, that's another source saying the
Right.
Giants were talking before Halloween. So that was confirmation of that.
And as you said, they were 2-4 at the time.
Yeah.
They play the Vikings team, a Vikings team that is winning with Sam Darnold, is going somewhere. Matthew Stafford goes 25 of 34, 279 yards, 4 touchdown passes. The Rams win and go, you know what? Our division's not that great right now. They stay pat. The reason I bring that up and I say it like that is because you and I talked multiple times. There was something unbelievably odd going on with the Giants during this whole time. No matter how much they kept going into games and they lost, how clearly the quarterback didn't win the game. I said it on a couple different things and people got mad. Some people got mad. Other people agreed with me. Daniel Jones didn't lose the game against the Cowboys, but he's the reason they didn't win. And people were like, it can't be. Yes, it can be. He didn't turn the ball over that was returned for a touchdown and the Giants lost the game. But there were multiple opportunities to make big passes and he just couldn't do it. He just couldn't get the ball there that you started to go, geez, if we just had a quarterback. And what did Daboll always say? This is the best we got. This is the guy, he gives us our best chance to win. But you kept seeing it, but you're not winning. And we couldn't understand, why would you keep saying it like that? And yet you're not producing. Then comes the game against the Panthers and all hell breaks loose and we can't do anything. The flea flicker becomes the most obvious play that Jones just does not pull the trigger.
His signature downfall play to me was the
right?
flea
Yeah.
flicker. Yeah.
So then you go forward to the game that everybody hates, everybody's pissed off at. I got you. We beat the Colts. What does Brian Daboll say in his press conference?
Give me a quarterback, and this is what will happen.
When you get competent play, when you make the plays that are there, when you get competent quarterback, and he said it specifically, quarterback play, this is what you get.
The guy that never ever has thrown anyone under the bus, who gets pissed off when coaches throw people under the bus, threw his previous quarterbacks under the bus with
He
one,
seemed pretty, it
which
seemed,
to me was his plea to ownership to say, give me a serious quarterback, and I'll show you what kind of coach I am. And I think that this game, we can talk about. I think this game has the potential to be is as catastrophic for the Giants as the Vikings playoff game was. We can get into that, but
and we can, because I 100% now disagree.
I know you do.
And the reason I say it like that is now I think all along, I told you this, anybody can go back and look at the video of this. I said it way back when. I thought there must be some agreement in place that allows them to let these guys know that they'd be coming back if things failed with Daniel.
Do you want to hear something that they'll throw you off a little bit? I should probably headline with this. One of the guys, track record on BBI. This is one of the sources that says one of the driving forces behind getting Matthew Stafford is John Mara. That he's pushing this, which
Well,
to
I'm
me,
sure that he is. I'm sure that he is.
So if that's true, again, we could. I don't want to spend time on this.
But that's still
that. What the f were they doing with Daniel Jones? I don't want to go back and look at this, but the way the Giants have handled the quarterback situation for the last few years is just mind-numbing. It's mind-boggling how they've handled this quarterback situation. It doesn't make any sense at all, and they've screwed this up from day one. And there's two. So he may or may not be right.
We'll hold that to the end, though. We'll hold that to the end because we still need to kind of cover what it would take to get him there. But I know where you're going with that. So my thought is what it was. They have their meeting. They discuss what's going to happen. What did I say right after when we talked about it? They were oddly specific about mentioning trade.
Right.
They mentioned it more than once, and that's really weird to say.
It is really, it's unusual for them to specifically reference trade.
Especially right at the end of the season. Like the rest of the league is still finishing out the playoffs. Nothing's happened yet, but you say trade.
They don't say we may need to bring in a rookie or a veteran. They say we may have to trade for a quarterback.
I'm right there. I'm like, they're on board with. They know they're going after somebody. And I think it is Stafford. They might not get him, but I've kind of been feeling all along, this is the guy that I said Aaron Rodgers, if he came available, they're not going to trade for Aaron Rodgers, and you don't have to now. The Jets have told everybody they're going to release him. So Stafford is the trade target, and I think it's pretty obvious now that what they're going to do. So let's just say we're not going to worry about the money because we have no control over that.
Right.
Compensation-wise, what makes sense? You've already mentioned that you've heard of 3. I saw someone else mention a 2 and a 2 next year.
Oh God! No, please.
I'm okay depending on how that is. You have to include picks coming back, though. I can't just give you a 2, and you've got to give me your 3, and then you got to give me your 3 next year. Yeah, so I might take one round less.
We've got to remind everybody out there that where these draft picks are in each round. So when you talk about 2, you say 2. It's a 2 near the top of the. What is it? The second or third? It's a second or third pick in the second.
Yeah, we have pick 34, so it's the second
pick in the second round.
It's the second pick in the in the second round.
Almost a first round draft pick, and it's the exact kind of pick you would need if you're thinking I want Jackson Dart. You either want that to stay there or move up. So again, these are really valuable. Now it depends on how you feel about this draft. Some people don't think this is a great draft. Others do. This is a good draft, for instance, if you want to get well on the defensive line. If you want to fix the defensive line, this is a good draft to do it. If you start trading away second and third round picks in a deep defensive line draft, then you're sabotaging your ability to fix the defensive line. Again, I know we have a hole at quarterback, and it also begs the question. And I know I'm throwing a lot, but we got to structure what we're going to do this.
Sure.
If you trade for Stafford, do you still draft a quarterback at 3?
No.
So
100% no.
Is that a mistake if you do that then? I mean, so again, before we let's start from this premise. What is the goal here? What are the Giants? What is the outcome? What are the potential outcomes if you trade for Matthew Stafford? A 37, he just turned 30, he just turned 37. So it was in February 7th, so a week ago. A week ago he just turned 37. You got him maybe 2 more years. What's the best possible outcome, realistic outcome of trading for Matthew Stafford? And does that make sense given the state of the NFC East right now? So let's work backwards from there.
Sure. So the first thing is it depends on what your mindset is on what you're going to do with this scenario. If it's me, if I'm doing this, this is what I do. First off, I am bringing Matthew Stafford on board. I want to get him. You've got to win, number one. You forget what you think or the rest of us fans think.
What is your definition of win?
You've got to win multiple games. You've got to at least
but
be
how many games?
But
how many? Give me a number. Give me a range.
You've got to at least be at around 8 or more.
To what end?
To bring back for Daboll to come back, you're going to be at. But
bingo.
But it doesn't matter.
So,
I don't care.
I know. But
care.
So let's just put the cards on the table here. So really, what they're trying to do, and you can argue with me. You can tell me what's wrong. The goal here seems to be not to win a Super Bowl right now. The goal seems to be to save jobs, right?
No, I'm saying if you're Daboll, though, that you're not the one who's going to make the ultimate decision on whether we do this or don't. We already talked about that. John Mara is going to decide.
Right.
So
John Mara at least has to sign off on this.
Agreed, but his edict is going to be: listen, you won in 22. This is how I would have said it. You won in 22 with a guy that you thought was limited later on. That's fine. We gave him a bunch of money because however that was done. We wanted to keep these things together because we thought we could build. You then told me that guy just can't get it done. And we've lost and we lost again. I gave you that credit. You're right. We didn't win with him. I'm going to get you a guy now. You tell me this is the guy. I'm going to get you him. You got to win. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying it that way. And that's how I would do it. The problem that too many people argue about right now that really pisses me off is that every answer you come up with is the wrong answer. They want to go, just bring in Justin Fields. Why would you bring in Justin Fields? He's goddamn Daniel Jones all over again. Just he's a little more athletic and less passing. Who cares? Why would you do that?
Well, again, I'm playing devil's advocate here now too. I'm not arguing from.
No, it's fine.
I've said from the beginning that there are no good answers here, except the best answer to me is this. There's only one great answer here, and it's we don't know if it can happen. If the Giants were to draft a quarterback in this draft that ends up being our stud, so be it Sanders, be it Ward, be it Dart, it could be even Will Howard. It could be somebody. I'm not saying these guys are all going to become studs. I'm saying the best possible outcome is for the Giants to get their version of Jaden Daniels. And go from there. Yeah, it is. Because let's think strategegically right now. The Eagles are so far ahead of us right now.
But I don't care.
Why?
But here's the thing: you're putting all your eggs in the basket that a stud quarterback has to be this draft and not next draft.
It can be next year.
But Stafford gives you that ability.
It can be next year, but again, if you have a Matthew Stafford who wins 8 games in 2025. Then you've hurt your ability to get the stud quarterback in 2026.
You can go get whatever you want next year, however you want
it.
Now, keep in mind. Well, so let me go back to where I was, which is what I would do. I get Stafford. Compensation wise, right now, my original thought was we give up a 3 this year, a 4 next year. I want back a 4 and I want a 5 back, but I don't. However that works.
Okay.
So a 3 and let's say 3 and a 4. We gave up 3 and a 4 next year. What I would do is I'm sitting at 3. If Abdul Carter is there, I truly have to think he's a game changer. I personally probably do it. But if I'm the Giants and say, like you, the idea is I want to win and we've got to have the guy for the future, but I don't know the guy for the future per se is here. I dropped from 3. I dropped down a little bit. I collect some picks. I backfill whatever I gave up and I get stuff for next year.
Which is possible.
If you take Carter, you take the pressure off of having to decide if you want to pick up the 5th-year option on Kayvon. We've got all the way until I believe the is it beginning of May or beginning of April?
Yeah, yeah, but
On the
to
5th.
me, I mean, that pressure to me is the minor thing. The bigger thing is the quarterback.
Well,
Where,
it's all, but I'm
but
talking about what
who
I
is
do
the
with picks and
quarterback
money.
who is the quarterback of the New York Giants 2 years after Stafford is done?
So
That's
the,
my concern.
so with that, and you named one person already. I'm going to trade down. I either get Abdul Carter or I trade down. But somewhere in the 4th round range, is where I'm looking right now. Is Will Howard. You get Will Howard, a guy who can learn behind Stafford. I don't think he's maybe going to potentially be the guy down the road, but he certainly gives you a developmental guy until we get to next year, when there will be multiple options and we can do whatever the heck we want next year.
Unless where those quarterbacks are out of range because Matthew Stafford won us enough
You
games
can
that
go
we're out
get
of range.
whoever you want. Ultimate. Keep in mind, not every
We
all
did
the
last
teams.
year. We tried to get May, and
I
we wanted Daniels. It's easy to say that, John,
No,
but
no, 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 no. But that was different. That was a draft at the top where all the guys at the top needed a quarterback. Right now, the bulk of the teams right now that went and got their guys, they're not going to need quarterbacks. Now you got a bunch of mid-tier teams, but a lot of those really good teams are going to be guys who might need quarterbacks too. So you're going to have people in the 18 to 30 range that are all going to possibly maybe be interested in a quarterback. The guys up top, I think Washington is going to have a regression a little bit. They have a lot of money and stuff, but to expect to be double-digit wins again the next year when you're really replacing a lot of your roster, it's a little unrealistic, but I think they'll still be okay. But they don't need a quarterback. Chicago shouldn't need a quarterback.
right.
Detroit's
But
probably not going to go
we
after a
we we could we
quarterback.
could speculate who does and who doesn't. I'm just saying that it's a lot easier to say we'll be fine to get a
But
quarterback.
why
We have a knack in recent history of being just outside where we need to be to make sure we get the quarterback.
do you want
Last
Shitter?
year
Do you
we
want
were
Shitter
six.
Sanders?
Last year we were what?
Do you want Shitter Sanders?
He's growing on me.
Real at 3.
He's growing on me. I'm not lobbying for him. I think Ward probably is a safer pick. By the way, I did hear from one person that, and this is the first time I've heard it, that the Giants like Ward. So it's the first time I've heard anybody, because everyone's been tying Giants with Sanders, and then one other source who was completely speculating said he wonders if the Sanders stuff is a smokescreen at this point. So, and other Giants fans have wondered this. Why are we not hearing anything about Ward? Why is it all about Sanders right now? So
It could be to entice the Raiders to jump up. I mean,
it could be
that's
something like that. We'll do another show on who, because
right.
we could get
Yeah.
sidetracked on this. So my concern is this, and I think you know where I'm going with this. My concern is the right. If, and I've said this on X, I've said this on Twitter. If the Giants get Matthew Stafford, he will be the best quarterback the Giants have had since Eli Manning. No doubt,
Yes.
no question. He's a tremendous, even at the age of 37, he's going to be the best quarterback we've had. How much does he have left in the tank? I don't know, but he's going to be the best quarterback we've had. He is going to make us a better team. My concern is that they're doing this out of sheer desperation because Mara looks like Marin must know that Giants fans think he's an idiot right now. They think that our ownership doesn't know what the hell they're doing. He's got to feel that he's a desperate man. We know Daboll was borderline. Are they even going to bring this guy back? So he knows he's dead man walking unless he gets turns this around. Shane can't feel very good on where he's at. So my concern is this is right. They're doing this for the wrong reasons rather than the long-term health of the Giants. I know where you're coming from. You want to win. You want to you're doing two things. You also agree with me that they've got to stabilize the situation to save their own necks, but you also want, and there's a lot of Giants fans who feel the way that you do. We're so tired of being a laughing stock. Let's at least get to be respectable and then fix it permanently beyond that. My concern is, are they postponing things again? Is this another band-aid approach? And you may be right. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but this just reeks of me of desperation where they're just postponing a permanent fix at the position, and the permanent fix is the hardest fix, and that's the find our version of Jaden Daniels. And I keep saying Jaden Daniels, but he's the easiest one to reference because of what he did to Washington this year. Washington's roster stinks, but they got the one guy that changed the entire narrative. I
Sure.
talked yesterday to a Commanders fan, and he was giddy. He didn't want to get off the phone with me. He is so happy. He can't believe it. He went from years and years of horrible Washington football team Commanders / Redskins play to this, and he's on cloud nine right now, and he's pinching himself. And that's kind of what the Giants need to do, because we can not only have to think about winning, but we have to think about the arms. It's a literal and figurative arms race with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders right now. We have to be able to catch them, or we're condemned to being third or fourth in the division for the next 5 years.
I agree with you, but I think a lot of people speak in these Pollyanna, this is how it should happen kind of thing, as if it's just you just magically can make it happen.
Can't. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
The draft is a effing crap. Exactly.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. In all honesty, and I know we can't, for those who are going to listen, we can't guarantee what we're about to say. I don't even know what you're going to say, but even what you say, there's no guarantee. We couldn't go, yep, that's 100% what would happen.
Right.
But I laid it out on BBI, BigBlueInteractive.com, the other day in that chain about Stafford. I laid out where the Giants were this year. How many games would they have won if from day one Matthew Stafford was the quarterback with the team the way that it was? How many games would we have won? And if you take it all the way to just the Carolina game, I listed all the games where the quarterback probably was the difference, or could have been the difference, between winning and losing for the Giants. You put Matthew Stafford in there, and this team suddenly has 4, maybe 5 more wins than it did all the way through that mid portion of the season. Not even the end of the year when we were decimated by injuries, but you don't know what would have happened if all the scenarios were different.
All right.
Washington, Cincinnati, Dallas, Carolina, the second Washington game. That's 5 games right there alone that Matthew Stafford probably would have been a difference maker in those games. 5 more games. You're suddenly at 8 wins. New Orleans, that's 9. You're a 9-win team. All of a sudden, we're talking about us being a wild card team. That's with just a quarterback being different. So my point to this is, yes, we could chase the guy for the future. And I agree, this is not a long-term solution. But the fact of the matter is, we don't have anybody on the roster right at the moment. We have a guy that we believe will be tendered, and that just means he can't go anywhere. He can't go anywhere else, period. He can't negotiate with anybody. He's not even a transition free agent. He's an exclusive rights free agent with the Giants. They either keep his rights or they don't.
Right.
That doesn't mean they want him. That just means that they're at least just like, okay, we'll keep him as a body arm.
But
we have no quarterbacks, none.
But why not do what you've suggested in the past? If I'd be more willing to do this veteran route by getting Aaron Rodgers, not giving up the draft pick, having Aaron Rodgers for a year.
Sure. But our scenario is just because the discussion's out there about Stafford. We did lay it out before that Rodgers is the cheaper draft pick acquisition. Stafford is going to cost you in the draft picks. I think the dollars would be roughly the same, because I don't think Rodgers is coming in cheap no matter where he goes. No. And he brings just as much baggage as, Stafford's, wife.
And the interest would have to be mutual. The interest would have to be. He's going to be able to sign with whoever he wants to sign, assuming he's let go, which they've said they don't want him back.
They actually made the announcement. They put it out that they are going to release him.
So he's got to agree. It's not like you can pick him off of waivers. He's a veteran, so he would have to. Yeah. Anyways, I just don't like giving up the draft picks. My question, and you're completely correct, John. If you put Stafford on this team, and somehow Andrew Thomas doesn't hurt his Liz Frank injury, this team in an NFL filled with bad football teams could have been in a wild card hunt. My question is, And I know, I think I know your mindset. Your mindset is don't, Eric, don't think about too much into the future. We can't control that. Let's just deal in the now. My concern is Stafford is here probably 2 more years, and then you're back where you started from. Starting position. You got to
Sure.
fix the quarterback. Part of me is just like, let's just fix the quarterback. Let's take another swing at the plate in the draft, and if we screw up, instead of waiting 6 years again to do what everyone else is doing, cut bait. So say they draft Cam Ward. 2 years from now, Cam Ward looks terrible. Get rid of him and do it again. That's what other teams do. The Giants, on the other hand, they keep guys like Daniel Jones around 6 years when everyone else in the world can see that the guy can't play, and they hold on to him too long. So I just I know Stafford will help the Giants this year. Um, what I have a hard time seeing is does Matthew Stafford change the way Shane Bowen coaches the defense? Is the best case scenario is this? The best case scenario is this: is Matthew Stafford makes Brian Daboll look like a stud coach again. But
Right.
does that really happen? I don't know. Daboll is selling the narrative that if you give me a real quarterback, what I did to the Colts, who quit on that day, that's where I differ
Well, I
with
mean,
you.
they didn't quit. They were not very good. They still put up a bunch of points on us.
I
So
know, but you saw how they were tackling. I mean, not tackling, and it was like, what do they do? I mean, if you went to visit Colts fans' websites after that game, they were livid. They were like, "What the hell was that? We had everything in front of us, and we laid down like a dog against a
sure,
terrible football
sure.
team." So my concern is John Mara looked at that game. Had Dable told him, "If you give me a legitimate quarterback, and I'll put up 40 points a game, and will turn into a real playoff contender with a real
Do
quarterback."
you
He
not?
may be right. He
But do you?
may be right, but I'm afraid that's false
But
gold.
do you not
Fool's
believe?
gold.
But I'll take that and I'm going to turn it
Okay.
back on you. Do you not believe that that narrative was already agreed upon when the Giants supposedly were already reaching out to the Rams about Matthew Stafford?
Well, that's the big
See,
question.
that to me that says
That
that they
that's a
already
re-
had that discussion.
that's a really good question. What I still struggle with is this is and it's what we mentioned on the other call. So once they did the $160 million contract, they were locked into 2 years in Daniel Jones. They
Yeah.
could not cut him. Now they cut him sooner than even I thought they would when they cut him
But
mid-season.
but it's still all
It's
counting for
right,
this
right.
year. Yeah.
But they were locked in. They screwed up. They locked in. They had to do start 2 seasons with him. What I still can't get over is they telegraphed with their interest in the heavy scouting in the draft, flirting with the quarterbacks. I know we've talked about Hard Knocks being orchestrated, but there was nothing for them to get out of Hard Knocks by falsely advertising they were ready to move on from Daniel,
Sure. Sure.
which they
Sure.
did. So they telegraphed that they had serious doubts about Daniel Jones. It was all out there. Yet their only fallback was Drew Lock, and that to me, and then this and then at some point they decided to inquire about Matthew Stafford. So what I still can't wrap my head around is I know they were locked into Daniel Jones, and they knew Daniel. They weren't really sold on Daniel, and they knew Daniel was coming off a major injury, and they said they weren't going to sure he was even going to be ready for the start of the season. Why didn't they have a better backup plan in case Daniel flamed out, which he did? So I agree with you. That's why I'm this whole thing
Yeah.
that they've handled the quarterback. I don't understand what it's almost like they winged it. It's like, but
Well, I kind of get the feeling that again, I said it before and I'll keep saying it. I think there was some weird agreement, but you gotta go through this year with Jones. I think Jones, it just blew up to the point where it became so obvious that he's just not the guy. And while John Mara will come out and say, we don't play to lose. And you have to say that, by the way. He's on the competition committee, so people stop. He's not going to come out and go, well, yeah, we weren't trying to win. You can't say that. But the fact that they pulled Jones, jumped to DeVito, and after you said all the way to the point of the Carolina game, over and over and over again, you said he gives us the best chance to win. And then you jump to the third string guy. You've basically said we're kind of throwing the white flag up.
But then they went back on that, like, and you've said that because you thought that the impact on the locker room. Once DeVito was healthy again, they still stuck
Well,
with Locke.
I think you kind of had. I mean, it was such a disaster, and DeVito got a concussion. I mean, so you're kind of
Right,
like,
but he was out 2 weeks. But why did they play Locke at the end of the year? I don't even understand. I don't even understand why they played Locke at the end of the year. Locke's not going to, unless you want bring Locke, unless you're thinking about bringing Locke back. Why would you have even played Locke? Maybe they were thinking maybe they might bring Locke back. I hope they don't.
I actually think they thought, quite frankly, Locke was really bad. Like Locke was horribly bad against the Falcons. He ran a lot against the Cowboys in a game that was close. Another game, by the way, that a better quarterback would have won that game. The Thanksgiving game in Dallas. So that game was close. I mean, it was like 27-20. I think he ran for 2. But he's not throwing much. He throws multiple pick sixes against the Falcons. He was bad. He was epically bad in the preseason.
He had 3 pick sixes on the season in limited playing time.
And he got injured in the preseason, which I think also played a role in they might have gone to Locke earlier in the season, but they weren't going to go to DeVito because remember, Locke got hurt. So Locke really wasn't able to play. He was on the sidelines, but they didn't want to put him in. He hurt his hip. So, yeah, I don't know. They were very clear with Russell Wilson. That rumor got out that they told him you wouldn't be competing for the starting job. I do believe the mandate was it's not, there's no way I can prove it, but this is as clear as it seems. You had Williams, which you knew was going to the Bears. You had Daniels, which they kind of believed was going to Washington, but they were very interested. They made that obvious. And then you had May, who they kind of never really said his name out loud that they were interested in him, but it was obvious they were interested. Those are the 3 guys. Mara says, you can trade up if you want to. You can't give up the farm, though, to go get the guy. But if you've got a conviction, go ahead. But I have a feeling the reason they did that and they didn't show us that is here's the 3, and then here's the other 3. And in between are the guys that they actually had rated higher. And that's why they keep saying the process, the way we do things. Yeah. And Neighbors the dog, and I hate the dog thing, and that sounds stupid, but on their board, Neighbors was really high. So you can't convince the owner to take a guy way down here when you're paying a guy over here a ton of money over this guy that you think is a potential all-pro wide receiver. You kind of have to. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. But this year's different.
Look, I'm not a big Russell Wilson fan at this stage of his career. I'm not. I've been very critical of him when he was on other teams on BBI, when he was with Seattle and so forth. However, if I'm running the Giants and last year I bring him in, I would have said, if you come here, you are competing with Daniel Jones for the starting job in training camp. Why they did not do that, I know, I hear what you're saying, and what you're saying.
It's a theory.
Would make sense. It would. I mean, when I say
it makes sense in Giants
world. Plausible. It's plausible,
right,
and it fits in why they wouldn't tell Russell Wilson this. But that's why I keep coming back is they've so mismanaged this quarterback situation. Because if you have serious doubts about Daniel Jones, you just don't hand him the starting job again, no matter how much money he's making. I know it looks bad, but again, jobs are on the line. Our fan base is tired of this shit. You say, Russell Wilson, we're signing you, and he wouldn't have been expensive. Look what Pittsburgh did. We're signing you. You're going to have a real shot to start here with Malik Neighbors if we draft Malik Neighbors. And the thing, we got all these plans and free agency with the offensive line. You come here, and you're going to have a real chance to resurrect your career. And what did Russell Wilson say? He said the Giants didn't. It comes out later that he wasn't going to be able to compete for the starting job there. So and Pittsburgh said he would. So of course he's going to go plus Pittsburgh is a better team. So that's why I can't wrap my head around what the Giants are doing at quarterback.
But you could you could see though that and we said this, right? They expected that Jones would at least be able to be a 15 touch, which is really low level, by the way, in the NFL. a 15 touchdown passing guy and 7 rushing, but we thought some of the rushing would move over to the passing because we didn't think he'd run as much coming off the ACL. So we were thinking in the 20s. We thought maybe even more with Neighbors and better talent. He couldn't even get back to the 15 touchdown guy. Something drastically changed in him that he can't even do what he was doing in 22,
Well, but
which
the
was
other thing too, John,
average.
is remember they kept saying they don't even know he was going to be healthy. So
That's
in
true.
March, when this was going on, they didn't even know if he would be able to. Again, let's not spend too much
Yeah,
time on it.
it's
I just don't understand what
so
their strategy
but
was.
your point was you think that maybe now Maris convinced himself, and I'm thinking
Oh,
I think this decision was decided when they reached out to the Rams. If it's true that when they reached out to the Rams, they knew that with a guy like him, they could win with the players that they have. And I'm thinking for me, if it's me, because you keep asking me what's my
right.
plan, this is what I would do. I still would get a quarterback. I'm saying I'm on board. Jackson Dart I would like, but you're going to have to take him higher than I want to. I don't think any of these quarterbacks are really that good this year. Ward is probably the best of the group, and I was on board with him during the summer. But I don't want to. I don't. If I get Stafford, I don't want to waste my pick with him at 3 because he's so fundamentally different. And he will need some time. I would rather get a Dart or a Howard, but I'm thinking get Howard. Get me other good players because our roster's still a little thin. Get me other good players and let's maybe get another pick for next year and be ready to move next year to get whoever we want. But really, Stafford gets me to where I need to go, and I can still fill rosters, and I can get a young quarterback. Get me Will Howard in the 4th. Get me Abdul Carter up top, or I trade down, and then maybe you get a Mason Graham, or we get a Will Johnson at corner, or whatever. And then I also want to get like a Cameron Williams at offensive tackle. Give me in the 3rd round or somewhere in that range. I want another tackle. I can do a lot if you get me the quarterback elsewhere, and I can play with the draft because I can move around if I want to and get a bunch of guys because there's so many guys in this draft that are like mid-tier guys that are somebody's going to get a lot of really good depth players, but I don't want to get depth players at the top of the draft.
That I've heard people analyze this draft in that way, that they've said this is not a great draft, but you can get decent players well into the draft. So in other words, this may not be a great draft to have a top 10 pick. Not talking top 3. I'm saying top
Sure.
10. But it may be a better draft to have a bunch of picks in the 2nd and 3rd round. Which, okay, bottom line for me, this, because I don't want to go on too long. I want
No.
to keep this shorter.
Yep.
Bottom line is this: I don't have a problem bringing Matthew Stafford on board as long as we don't give up the farm on this. And I think most Giants fans are in that
Sure.
category. If we give up a lot of picks or a significant pick without the swapping that you're talking about, Matt and SGS has talked the same thing that you have. Don't think about just maybe giving up a pick. Maybe think about swapping, picks, and maybe that'll work out and be more palatable to accept the trade if you're swapping picks. But if we go in and we give up our second round pick, I'm going to have a major problem giving up, which is essentially almost a 1st round draft pick, to a player that's going to play 2 more years in this league in a division that right now looks on paper like we're the third team in the division. We may get ahead of the Cowboys if Brian Daboll for once in his effing life can beat the Cowboys. Right now, Brian Daboll, for whatever reason, even when they got their backup quarterback starting, we can't beat the
Multiple
Cowboys.
times. Multiple
But
times.
multiple times. But my concern is this team is only going to get better if we draft better, and so I'm all on board on trading down, picking up picks. If they are convinced that Ward or Sanders isn't the dude, do that. Drop down. I'm not. The question is, at some point, is somebody like Hunter really going to turn you around? Maybe it's better to get a bunch of picks. But if we're giving up our 2nd round pick, God forbid the 1st, I don't think the 1st round pick.
There's no way.
Even a
No way.
swapping, I
No.
don't think that's even on the table. But if they're if they start negotiating against themselves and they give up their 2nd round pick, I'm going to have a major problem with this franchise. If they're listening, don't be desperate with this. I keep saying desperate men do desperate things. Don't be so desperate just to be average at this point. but if like you said, if it's involving third and fourth round picks and they're swapping picks and stuff like that, that's more tolerable to me. I can deal with that, and I think Matthew Stafford would make this a competitive football team.
Do
However,
you
he's 2 years from now, he'll be off this roster after 2 years.
yeah, true. Do you think, okay, first I want to dispel one thing, and a big fan of Cy, but Cy put out there about Stafford's playing time over the last couple of years. That was completely inaccurate.
You mean the
The,
injury situation?
it was completely
Yeah.
Stafford played in 16 games this year. The only game he didn't play was because they didn't play him. Like they didn't need to. It was the last game. He played 16. The year before he played 15. So he's not missed a ton of time. It was the year before that he missed a decent amount of the season, but before that he played in all 17.
And he
So
still has a lot of wow games where you're
here's
like,
yeah.
damn, he can play.
So would it be a fair statement to say that the Giants injuries on their offensive line and the number of offensive line combinations this year was a big factor in how badly they played overall?
Unquestionably. But the big question
Well,
this
no. Wait. Stick with that for a second.
yeah, unquestionably, yes.
The Giants had 10 different starting offensive linemen this year.
Right.
Do you know how many the Rams had?
Well, he had a mess. They had a mess too.
They had 11.
Yeah, they had a mess.
They had more injuries on their offensive line than the Giants did.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, neither one of them played more than 12 games this year. They both missed. Tyler Higbee, their starting tight end, played three games. So Matthew Stafford still managed to produce, brought other people up with a team that had just as many injuries on its offensive line as we did.
Right.
Whose running back combination is Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. I mean, Kyron looks like he's going to be a good guy going forward and stuff. Blake Corum is totally unproven. The receivers included Tutu Atwell. It included is it Darius Robinson? I'm trying to remember who the other guy was. There's another guy, I can't even remember what his name is. They manage, and yes, that some of that is coaching. But the fact of the matter is Matthew Stafford still produced, threw over 20 touchdown passes, almost 4,000 yards passing, with a roster that was very much injured a lot.
And who gave the Eagles more trouble in the playoffs? The Kansas City Chiefs or the Rams?
Well, not and not just the playoffs. In 2 regular season games, in regular season and the playoffs. Matt, quite frankly, by the way, the Rams could have easily beaten the Eagles on that last drive if they don't take a timeout. If they just keep going, they had the Eagles on their heels. The Eagles were totally just falling apart, and they couldn't substitute in, and the Rams were just going, and then the Rams called timeout.
If Matthew Stafford was 31 years old, I'd be way more excited.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, of course.
That's the issue. So, all right. I think we can wrap this up. So we've told people what we've heard. We've talked about the pros and cons of this. We know this. I know this is a hot topic because the threads blew up. My Twitter feed blew up. I doubled my. I just started my Twitter feed. I had it for years, and I had like 8,000 or 9,000 followers, and I started it again a few months ago, and I only had like 400 followers. It's jumped up to 900 in just a day because people saw the tweet on this. So people want to talk about this. So comment on the YouTube channel of what your opinion is on this, because this is. So,
and will it happen? What do you think? Do you think this will happen?
Do I think, or you're asking?
Everybody, but I'm asking you. Do you think this will happen?
Yes. I think it's going to happen.
I think
again, this is.
I think it was already in play before the season ended. I think they knew once the season ended. I think they had already talked to the Rams. You don't say trade unless you knew that was a route you were really going.
Yeah, and we should tell everyone out there, because, and I should have said this earlier. Everyone who's saying, well, what if it's going to happen? Why isn't it happened? They can't do a trade right now. The trade deadline, you can only start trading, is it March 12th? Is it
the 10th opens up the free tampering part. It doesn't be
it's the 10th or the 12th of March.
Trades can happen. Like, you can say we're going to trade, but nothing is done until the 12th. The league year starts at 4:00 on the 12th when everything's official. Free agent tampering can begin on the 10th, But again, none of those are official until 4 o'clock on the 12th. But so official trade wouldn't be till the 12th. It will get agreed upon. There was a couple of trades recently that get talked about and we're told it's going to happen at the combine. I suspect that you're going to start hearing things really pick up at the combine.
Well, and I want to throw that out there too. So everyone out there who's saying, Eric, you're full of shit. Your sources are full of shit. I'm going to laugh your ass off when this doesn't happen. This is out there. So take BBI out of the equation right now. People are talking about this. So somebody, it's not just the BBI thing. So after I posted this, and I'm not saying that this happened because I posted it. Obviously it didn't. The national sports media is talking about this now, this scenario. So it's somebody's out there talking about this. So the Rams Giants thing, the newspapers are starting to write about it. The TV, the ESPNs of the world are talking about it. So
and how interesting is it that Malik Neighbors gets interviewed and he drops very specifically the Giants will get a veteran and a rookie.
And Eli Manning said in an interview that he thinks the Giants need to bring in a veteran.
It seems like the narrative's out there and other people know kind of that stuff's out there.
Well, somebody said that it was out at the was it the Senior Bowl? It was either the Senior Bowl or the Super Bowl. I don't remember which. That Stafford was being tied with the Giants too. This was posted on the website. This one, so this isn't coming from me.
I think it was on. There was talk on Super Bowl Row is what they call it when they have all that. There was a lot of discussion that Stafford to the Giants was a real thing.
Take BBI out of the equation. Take me out of the equation. Take my sources out of the equation. It's out there. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. And so if it happens, it's going to happen in March. So those of you saying, well, that didn't go anywhere, it can't happen. And now it may get leaked, but it may be like John saying it may, that it's done. They're just waiting for the league year to start. That may be what happened. So right now we're on the 15th of February, the day after Valentine's Day. Less than a month, Stafford might be a Giant. So that's where if it happens, it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen as soon as they can do the trade. This won't drag. I don't think this is going to drag.
I think we will hear before the tampering free agency period starts. Keep in mind too, you're going to want to work something like that out ahead of time and be ready to go. Because all we're talking about as far as what can happen or not happen is legally signed, sealed, contracts are in place, numbers are moved, and you're going to want to know what those are as you start free agency, depending on who you're going to go after, because you got to know what you have for cap space. Because by the way, the Rams and the Giants are almost identical in cap space, which is really weird when you consider some of the high priced people that the Rams have on their roster still. And yet they actually are right around what the Giants have in cap space. So this is a big deal for both teams to get or whoever to figure it out, so you know what you can spend in free agency. And with that, we'll wrap up the Stafford thing.
We keep it at an hour. We're at an hour.
And for free agency, I haven't told you yet. We talked about it. We're gonna go live on free agency the first day of tampering. I've already cleared my work schedule. I've taken
this will be part of it. And this will be part of it. So the Stafford news will probably come out right when we're live.
We'll be live and we'll be ready to go if we have to go live on other days.
If I'm over here going, we gave up what?
Well, we might be there. We might be there.
You're going to say Giants fans are going to be seeing me doing a John Mayer in the background with my chair, going like that.
Just throw it and it still lands back on his legs. So impressive.
Throwing my Pepsi against the wall. My medium Pepsi.
You're medium, not large.
Not large, medium. With too much ice in it, probably too. So, link. What do you always say? Subscribe,
subscribe, comment. We look forward to it. Gio in New Jersey, feel free to keep bashing me. I know you just love me. So,
if you guys want to keep know when we're going live, you've got to subscribe and do the bell thing, or you won't know when we're going live. So there you go. We got you. You got to subscribe.
All right. So with that, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll catch you again real soon.